Alright, more English, here we go. So we are swapping over to the workspace. Little prelude here, because I know you're just getting through it. I'm getting through it, right? Passage 4, Beaux Arts, Architecture in the Spotlight. On West 45th Street in New York City, wedged between buildings more than twice its height, stands the Lyceum Theater. Okay, this its sounds like it's correct, but notice that we have both an its and an its here, right? So the first question is whether it should be plural or singular. What is twice the height, right? Twice the height of the Lyceum Theater. So Lyceum Theater is singular, we should be an its. The IT apostrophe S is always just for it is, right? So this apostrophe is standing in for this kind of missing I down here. The its is the singular possessive pronoun as opposed to the plural possessive pronoun, so we want to choose that one. Tourists and New Yorkers alike regularly filling this theater to its 900-seat capacity. If that sounds strange to you, it's because it's not a complete sentence. We need a verb here, right? This filling looks like it should be a verb, but in this case, it's not quite there. So we want to hear tourists and New Yorkers alike regularly fill this theater, basically. The filling makes it so that they do not have a verb in the sentence. So do we need a comma then after alike? Tourists and New Yorkers alike regularly filling this theater. So the general rule is that we can have a subject and a verb. We want those to be directly next to each other unless we have two commas with a phrase in the middle of them. In this case, we don't have an option to separate tourists and New Yorkers, which is the subject of the sentence, from fill with two commas, right? We need a comma right next to fill for that to work. This comma here doesn't work, it's got to be D. Most are there to attend a performance. A few, for example, are likely to be architecture buffs. They come to admire the stunning building itself. Okay, I'm stumbling there because there definitely should be some sort of a break there, right? So most are there to attend a performance. A few, for example, are likely to be architecture buffs. Okay, what does architecture buffs have to do with viewing a performance? Nothing, right? So this should not be for example, or a consequently, or an in fact, because these are not, them being architecture buffs does not support the idea of them being there to attend a performance. We want to look at the however. So it's like, okay, they could be there to attend a performance, but sometimes they're just architecture buffs, you know. So are likely to be architecture buffs. They come to admire the stunning building itself. Okay, so that's a run-on sentence. That can't work. Whom admire the stunning building itself is no way, because whom needs to be a direct object. This looks like it's going to be a subject, right? They admire the building. They admire the stunning building itself also doesn't work because we have a run-on sentence, right? We'd have a few architecture buffs. They come to admire the stunning building itself. Those are two complete thoughts, and we definitely need some punctuation between them, so that just they can't work. However, if we go for are likely to be architectural buffs there to admire the stunning building itself, then that second piece is no longer a totally independent sentence, and so this is kosher. Built in 1903, the theater exemplifies the Beaux Arts architectural style, which fuses elements of classical Greek and Roman design with Renaissance and Baroque details. The Beaux Arts revival of classical Greek and Roman architecture is apparent on the first view of the theater. The Lyceum's facade, the exterior front or face of the building, features half a dozen Corinthian columns. Okay, above the columns extends a horizontal stone band called a frieze. Carved into it are the classical theatrical masks that represent comedy and tragedy. Okay, this actually seems good, right? We have above the columns extends a horizontal band called a frieze, that's independent. Carved into it are classical theatrical masks that represent comedy and tragedy, that's independent too. If we have two independent ideas, we want to connect them with a semicolon, which is exactly what's happened here. All these other ones make mistakes where you have a semicolon with an independent and a non-independent piece, a period with an independent and non-independent piece, and then a comma with two independent pieces, right? So this is the big thing that they're testing, the big thing that a lot of students don't understand. So that's why I'm kind of sticking on this. The writer is considering adding the following sentence. Masks figured prominently in classical Greek theater performances, in part due to the fact that one actor would usually play several characters. Should the writer make this addition here? Okay, so the masks represent comedy and tragedy, and this kind of talks about what masks are all about. Let's see the context, right? They're really talking about the facade, and then they go to the tall French windows, something like that. So So they're really sticking on the architecture. This seems like it might be an irrelevant detail, but it's not unreasonable to put this little bit of a descriptor here. So let's see what the justifications are. Connects the paragraph's point about theatrical mass to the larger subject of classical Greek theater. While this is true, there is not a larger subject of classical Greek theater really that is discussed here. Yes, because it explains the mass significance of classical Greek theater and architecture. Maybe. Right? It definitely talks about the relevance to classical Greek theater, but not classical Greek architecture. No, because it only addresses classical Greek theater and doesn't include information about Roman theater. We're not talking about really Greek or Roman theater. No, because it deviates from the paragraph's focus on the Lyceum's theater. Oh yeah, it's got to be D, right? This is really just about the architecture. Architecture buffs come in there to look at the cool stuff. Demonstrating the Beaux-Arts infusion of Renaissance and Baroque details, tall arched French windows, symmetrically placed between the columns, lighten the imposing gray limestone structure. Above the windows and frieze, an exterior balcony spans the width of the gray building. Okay, here you see gray limestone, and limestone. If you see the words repeated over and over again, you usually want to pick the shortest one, which in this case is delete. So can we delete? Above the windows and frieze, an exterior balcony spans the width of the building. Sure. So why delete here? Because this whole gray limestone stuff is already described back here. So they're testing redundancy. If you're seeing something and grammatically everything is fine and they're like, well, what do you want to do? Generally they're testing for redundancy or wordiness. The balcony is fenced with a balustrade, a stone railing supported by a row of waist-high vase-shaped pillars. Okay. So then notice that the balcony is fenced with a balustrade is independent. A stone railing supported by a row of waist-high vase-shaped pillars is non-independent. Independent, non-independent, joined by a comma should be okay. So I'm leaning towards A. B uses a period and then makes the which is, which means that that second part is going to be non-independent, so that can't work. Same thing with C. And then D, of course, does the opposite problem, right? Where you have an independent balustrade, and then they start another independent piece. This is blah, 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 blah. So it's got to be A. Not just one, but two marble-finished... Sorry, I should read the other piece. The ornate interior of the building is consistent with its elaborate exterior. Not just one, but two marble-finished grand staircases lead from the foyer to the mid-level seating area called the mezzanine. Inside the theater itself, elegant chandeliers illuminate rose-colored walls that have gold accents. Okay. Elegantly chandelier illuminates. No, so elegantly sounds like it should be describing illuminates. You could say chandeliers elegantly illuminate, but the syntax isn't right there. So elegant chandeliers illuminates. So what's the difference between these two? It's this S on illuminates versus the not S on the illuminate. So chandeliers here is plural. Illuminate is the plural form. I'm going to go with F. That have gold accents. Which choice maintains the essay's positive tone? So we want it to be positive. And most strongly mimics the elaborate style of decor being described at this point in the essay. So positive, elaborate. Gold accents that have gold accents, not positive, not elaborate. Embellished with myriad gold accents, both ornate, elaborate, and positive. Accented with gold, neutral. Marred with gaudy accents of gold is elaborate but not positive. Marred is like if you scar something, especially an inanimate object. And gaudy is like, not in good taste, basically. Not artfully or aesthetically pleasingly done. Just be here. In keeping with sumptuous Beaux-Arts style, curved rows of plush purple chairs embrace the stage. If the writer were to delete the previous sentence, or the preceding sentence, the essay would primarily lose details. So this is details about the curved plush purple chairs that are on the stage. So what would we lose if we got rid of that? Illustrate one of the Lyceum theater's features that deviates from Beaux-Arts architecture. No, this says in keeping with Beaux-Arts architecture. Contribute to the description of the Lyceum theater's elaborate interior. Yeah, this is inside. Support the essay's claim that Beaux-Arts architecture was most popular in the 20th century. This does not help with that. Clarify an unfamiliar architectural... No, chairs is not an unfamiliar architectural term, I think. The writer wants to divide this paragraph into two in order to separate details about the building's outdoor from the building's indoor features. Okay. So when does it separate from outdoor to indoor? So, balustrade with pillars, that sounds like it's outside. The ornate interior is consistent with the elaborate... Okay. Here's a very clear transition sentence from exterior to interior. So it should be right there at C. Cool. Patrons credit the handsome Beaux Arts aesthetic with adding enhancement to their theater-going experience. So, in the same manner, on one hand, for instance, so we were just talking about purple plush chairs. That doesn't have anything to do with the patrons directly, so we don't need any of these little transition sentences that refer back to the chairs. With adding enhancement to the experience, adding to the experience, right? Same words, pick the shortest one. Enhancing the theater-going experience. The smaller and more cramped than many newer theaters, audience members often note that legroom is limited, when people were smaller back then. The Lyceum's distinctive atmosphere continues to delight theater fans as well as architecture enthusiasts. And then 60 asks about the preceding passage as a whole. Suppose the writer's primary purpose has been to explain how a building illustrates a particular architectural style. Would this essay accomplish that purpose? Well, a building and a style. Yeah, it talks about the Beaux Arts architecture for the Lyceum Theater, right? Describes the architectural styles of several New York theater buildings. Nope, focuses on one. Enumerates a number of the Lyceum Theater's Beaux Arts features is almost certainly correct. Focuses more specifically on the set design for Lyceum's theater productions. It does not do that. In fact, I don't even think that's mentioned. No, because it focuses on more than one architectural style. No, it does not. It's just the Beaux Arts. Okay. So good. I know I'm going a lot faster now, but that's just because you've seen a lot of these types of problems before, and it's probably becoming a little bit old hat. I know it is for me, but I'm really used to this. If you have any questions, it does make sense to watch these in order because I tend to explain a little bit more in detail and introduce some concepts in the earlier pieces, and then I just get all the way through this just so that you really get to see every single answer on the test at least talked about. So we're getting close to the end now. I believe there's 75 questions, so we should only have a couple more sections. I wasn't keeping track, but yeah, keep on going for the 36 and stay savvy.